I'm Dr. Ruth Anderson, here with Enlightened World Network. Welcome to this episode of Enlightened Women. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us. Enlightened Women is a show about women who are consciously awake and choosing to fully embrace life. These are real women, living real lives while walking in spirit. Some days, when the loss of a loved one has us on our knees, it can be difficult to remember that the spiritual divinity is right next to us, loving us while we grieve. I can't wait to introduce you to our guest to hear what she has learned firsthand about love, loss, and life after life. Today, our guest is Carol Ann Cross. Carol is a certified angel intuitive, a spiritual workshop and meditation facilitator, and a radio host on Angel Heart Radio. I am honored and privileged to introduce you to Carol. Carol, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you, Ruth. I'm really delighted to be here and to share my story, and also to put everything out to the world, that there's so many of us here who are walking and living both a balance between our spiritual and our human lives in this lifetime.
Thank you. And so, Carol, we're just going to jump right in. As you and I are speaking right here, in the room with me, I feel Archangel Michael, Divine Mother, and the beautiful soul of your daughter, Danielle, who you lost when she was 6 years old.
Yeah.
Would you share with us some of that journey?
Okay, I'll just start a little bit further back, because I was very blessed to grow up in a house that my mother was a clairvoyant and angel card reader and tarot reader. So I grew up with spirit, and as I got older, I went and would bring our human life in and get married and have children. I had two beautiful daughters. Danielle was, she was first, she was the eldest, and her sister was born 2 years later. And when Danielle was 4 years old, my world was shattered when she was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. They told us at that time she would have 2 years unless some treatment was found to save her. So in those 2 years, we did everything that we could to make her life happy. We actually did things that we shouldn't have done, like take her out where there were lots of people, because we believed that that was the right thing for her to enjoy all of the life that she had, and to experience everything in her life if it wasn't going to be a long one. But then when she passed away at the age of 6, which was 2 weeks short of the 2 years, my world was completely demolished. I turned against everything that I had grown up with all my life. I'd always believed in spirit, and I'd worked with the angels and with spirit. And I just turned my back on it, and I grieved so deeply. And I said, if there was a God, he wouldn't do this. And I felt really desolate. At the time, I think it was only the fact that Lisa was 4, and that was really the main reason that I kept going, because grief for all of us is very personal, and different people that I knew grieved differently. And one of the things that I really found hard at that time was I needed to talk about Danielle, but other people didn't want to talk because they didn't want to upset me. And that took a bit of getting used to, but to me it was most important to talk about her in my grief. And you know, I sort of went on a horrible, tumultuous journey. It was very difficult. Then many years later, I still wasn't in a good place. And I used to wake up in the middle of the night and my bones would be like ice. And it wouldn't matter if there was a heat wave, my bones would be like ice. And I couldn't get warm no matter what happened. And eventually one night in the early hours, I just said, "Is that you, Danielle?" And I instantly went warm. My bones warmed, my body warmed, and I knew she was there and she was with me, and that we would be able to move forward in life. And so then I started communicating more with Danielle and knowing. And my angels and spirit guides were there with me all the time in that terrible time that I was having. And they were just so relieved then that I had come through it. And I believe that by my experience is something that I can share with people, because it's very difficult sometimes for people to, people say, oh, I know how you feel, but they don't. So, and now I've worked with Danielle ever since then, and we've had a beautiful relationship working with Spirit, and I feel her all the time, and I know she's there. But interestingly, one of the things that I was concerned about was, because she had passed away and made her transition when she was so young, was that she would be reincarnated before I made my transition. And then I read a beautiful book by Mary Summer Rain, and she's a Native American author. And I read in this book about how it's always a part of our spirit in our pods, or in the other life, as well as while we're here on this earth. And I was really excited to read that, because I'd been in hospital with a heart condition, and I rang my mother very excitedly and I said, Mum, I just read this story. And she just very calmly in a beautiful voice said, Carol, you've always known that. You just needed to remember. And she said, and this is what you needed to do. And that's why you were drawn to that book. And, you know, this is part of the things I share with people, because that to me is what it's all about, is about sharing our life and our experiences with everyone.
And how fortunate you are to have had a mother who could lead you in this way and that part of her life with you. What a gift.
Oh, yes. And she was just so amazing. And yeah, so I had many experiences with her. But interestingly, even though she was a reader, she would never read for me or for any of the members of the family. And that's something that I do as well. I don't read for my family, because she said, you have to experience life yourself. You have to make your decisions, and you have to learn along your pathway. And so I was very, very blessed to have her for a mother.
Yes, yes. Have you made up with God?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. It was difficult. It was difficult, because I wouldn't have believed that the pain that I would have felt, that I did feel when Danielle passed away. But yes, I have made up with God, and I pray every night, and I go when I like to have my little prayers as I'm lying in bed, and I express my gratitude and I say my prayers. And yes, so I quite often talk to God and the angels and Spirit.
Were you able to make sense of why she got cancer and died?
I wasn't able to make sense of the fact of her getting the leukemia. As years passed, as I briefly said, I had a heart condition, and it was not, you couldn't do an operation to cure it, could only be medication. So I had a pretty awful medical life for a few years. And then when we learned Reiki, which Reiki made a big difference in my life and my husband's life, then that started to heal my heart. And then my husband one day said to me, you need to know the metaphysical reasons for your heart condition. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And he said, your heart has gone to stone, and you've built a wall around your heart. And this is what's caused the problem with your heart. And I was a bit angry with him, I have to say. And I said, that's not me. I'm a loving person. But then over the next few days, I stopped and I thought about that. And I thought, yes, I built a wall around my heart because I didn't ever want to feel that pain again that I felt when Danielle had died. And I hadn't realised that I'd held on to that pain within my physical body for all of that time after Danielle had passed. And then I started to do a bit more spiritual work and looking at various things. And then I changed my way of looking at losing Danielle as the fact that how blessed was I that she and I made this contract that I would be her mother for those 6 years of her life. how blessed was I? And so this also helped to completely change the way that I was looking at a lot of things within my life. And so, and the other difficult thing I had to do was to not wrap my daughter Lisa in cotton wool and protect her from everything. I had to let her experience her life and to do all the things she needed in life for her to grow and physically and spiritually. So yes, I do believe now, and I know how blessed I was, and I thank God for that.
That's beautiful to come from a place of gratitude.
Yes.
Just anger and hurt.
Yes. And this is it, when we look at the reasons, okay, so we're here and we're in this lifetime, and this is where the only place we can experience feelings and have choices and emotions and things like that. So to be able to come from the grief into the love and the gratitude and the blessings of how it changed completely and why. I think a lot of us need to sort of get to a stage of why things happen in our lives, and then I could understand all of that a lot better.
You talked about holding on to pain in your body.
Yeah.
My guess is that a lot of people do that unconsciously.
Yes. Unconsciously, yes.
Do you have ideas of how to acknowledge that and try to work some of that through, work it out?
Yes, well, as I said, in my case, it was sort of finding out reasonings why. But I think that sometimes when we experience pain and hurt in our bodies, that's what we concentrate on. And so if we can start to then change what we're looking at and what we're concentrating on, then that helps a lot. Working with the angels and with my spirit guides and teachers, and sometimes just when feeling angry or something, I'm very blessed. We live on 4 acres. We have lots of trees. I can go out and I can tell a tree, I can talk to a tree, and I can tell the tree how I'm feeling, or I can dig in the garden or do something in nature. I think is really important. I'm not such a great nature walker, going great big long hikes, but I can go out and I do talk to the trees, and I think that the trees. And another thing that I have, this is one I do in meditation though, is that I will sit on the ground with my back to the tree, and I will feel the energy coming up from Mother Earth through the tree into my body, and then going up to the Creator, to God, to the angels, and coming back down again. And I like to in meditation make this conduit of myself and anchor myself into Mother Earth, but at the same time be anchored to Spirit and to the angels and to God. And so that is a meditation I do a lot when I might be feeling a little bit down, because this is where we experience emotions and things, and if we didn't have days that weren't as good, we wouldn't then appreciate the days that are good quite as much. And so I feel that to have that connection is always very important to me. So working with nature and the angels and spirit, I think is one way. But also I believe people need to talk to one another. If somebody is in a place of anger and grief, sometimes to have someone who just listens without judgment but listening with unconditional love and compassion, then they can start to see a different picture and a different side of what's happening.
Thank you. You talked about working with Danielle now in spirit form. 2 questions come to mind. When you experience her, how old does she seem as a spirit to you?
She seems as a spirit in her mid to late 20s. And that's how, in the beginning, when she was first making contact with me again, I saw her as her age when she passed at 6. But now I see and feel her in her mid to late 20s. I occasionally see her in my mind, but mostly I feel her energy. I feel her love and I feel her energy. And I think that sometimes when people are in a place of grief, they don't allow those feelings to come through. It's stuck in the grief part and the pain. And so it's just a case of working through to be able to feel the energies of those we love, because their energies are very individual, and we know that it's their energy. So that to me is very important.
When your daughter's energy joined me here in the room, what I was experiencing was about a 6-year-old, and
Yeah.
that was so I would recognize her as her, because had
Yes.
she come to me as a 20 something, I would have thought, now who is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's just amazing when we work with spirit how, you know, we see and feel all of these experiences.
It is. So Carol, what I've seen in my work with people that have passed on, including my mother-in-law, is that for some souls, when they've been through a difficult illness or a difficult, long, prolonged death, there is a time needed after they pass for healing.
Yeah.
And I was told that the phrase I was given was called cocooning, where they would go in and really just take time to maybe process life events, physical events, etc. Have you experienced that sort of term of cocooning in your work with understanding life after life?
Yes, I have. I perhaps would, yeah, cocooning is probably a good word, because, you know, you're wrapped in that beautiful, safe, healing environment. What I experienced, and you know, this is just what I was shown for me, what they did for me when I was taken on a past life journey, was they placed me in, it was like a beautiful bowl, huge big bowl of warm water, and that was then cleansing and removing the pain and the sorrow, and helping my soul heal. And it was very beautiful, and it was very interesting when this happened, because I then saw Danielle as a 6-year-old sitting on the side of the pool. And it was like you're going flick, flick, flick with your fingers. And it was all of the lives that we had shared together was flick, 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 flick. And they were so quick that I couldn't individualize any of them. But it was so reassuring to me to know that I already in my mind felt that we'd lived a lot of lives together. But that to me then helped to reinforce that fact that we had lived many lives together.
And you're probably not done.
No, I agree thoroughly there. I do feel that as well. Yes. And the same with my mother. I feel that my mother and I have lived many lives together.
So I have experienced that gift of healing myself in meditation one day. I don't remember if I was feeling particularly down or sad or anything, but I was put in this, it was like a bowl, and it was filled up with this, it wasn't really a liquid, it was an energy. I wanted to think it was a liquid, and I tried to run my hand through it, but it wasn't a liquid. And when I really sat and thought of what that liquid felt like, the word that came to me was meanness, MENESS. So I was absolutely in this energy of nothing but me. And it was so healing. It was like the pure essence.
Yeah. Yes, that's beautiful. Really beautiful. And you know how wonderful it is that we are able to experience these things. So I think that's one of the things that I think is really, really amazing that we can do that. But also I think one of the, to me, I think that one of the roles that I have and everyone else is about sharing these things with people, because I think that's the important thing, to be able to share that information. And they just told me a minute ago to just say something else when we were talking about people dealing with grief. My mother passed away just over 3.5 years ago, and we were very close. And at the end, I spent a lot of time with her, even though she lived over 1,000 kilometres away. Getting towards the end of her life, she had about 2 weeks before she passed, and she just looked at me and she said, "You have to go home, Carol." And I said, "No, I want to stay a little bit longer." And she said, "No, you have to go home." She said, "We won't see each other again, not in the physical sense." And so we said our goodbyes, and it was very emotional, but it was amazing that we both knew that we would see each other again. So then she passed not long after that. And what I wanted to share was the fact that a lot of my friends said to me, who are in this sort of business field, they said, "But Carol, you know your mother is okay now, but you're grieving." And I said, "Yes," but I said, "That's my physical self is grieving. My spiritual self has communicated with Mum." And I said, "I know she's with me." And she was with me the other day when I was talking about this with Anaya. And I also want people to understand that the human self has to grieve. The spiritual self knows they're at peace, they're not in pain, that we will see them again. But the human side of us has to grieve. And to me, that's important for people to realise that too.
I had a really interesting experience the other day talking with one of the other speakers from this summit, and she was sharing with me that her grandmother had passed, and they had shared quite a bit of time together. And all of a sudden, my friend was receiving memories of time spent with the grandmother and things about different parts of the house and different activities that they used to do. My friend was processing this grief, but not really sure where these memories were coming from. And when I looked at that energetically, what I saw was that her grandmother it was almost like a life review. That part of the life review, she was having my friend help her process it.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to me.
That's amazing.
It was amazing to see grandma in spirit and my friend in the physical working together, and through love processing all of this information and really providing healing for both of them.
Mm.
It was beautiful.
That is beautiful. Yeah, truly amazing. Yeah, wonderful. And how wonderful for you to be able to see that, to be able to assist with all of that by seeing it and helping them through it. Mm.
Well, and I think for my friend, it was really helpful for her to know that some of these things that she was trying to process weren't her things to process. They were grandma's things to process. And it lightened the load off of my friend, that she felt much lighter about it. And then it turned into feeling like this was such a beautiful gift, that her grandmother trusted her and loved her so much to come to her and process with her. And my friend knew that the healing process for her was going to be much more bittersweet, actually, than some of the other family members that weren't dealing with things on the spirit level as well as the physical.
Yes, and that makes a big difference, because in my family, I'm the only one who does the same as Mum did and works with spirit. And so for the rest of my family, they didn't have that extra advantage that I had with very great many things. And I think too that this is where we're so blessed to be able to have that balance between the human and the spiritual side, because the human side can weigh us down so much with the emotion and the pain, But the spiritual side, when we process it that way, helps to lighten the load and to help us move on with life and to understand life and to understand why we're all here.
Exactly right. Some of our listeners are not that familiar with angels and don't know how to reach out to them. And I know that both for you and for me, connection with the angels is paramount at this point in life. What advice do you have for our listeners who don't know how to connect with angels?
Well, to me, the most important thing is to just have them understand that they don't need to do anything special. All they need to do is just to talk, just to ask, to reach out to the angels, to just perhaps even if they don't meditate, just to sit in a quiet spot, listen to the birds sing, and perhaps then just ask their angels to wrap their wings around them, to cocoon them in love, and to start to feel the energy and to get them to take notice of signs also. I mean, we know about the feathers, that they're signs that the angels are with us. But, you know, they might be driving in the car and all of a sudden there'll be a song come on that resonates with them. Or they'll be in a bookshop and they're drawn to a book. And so there's a great many signs. And when they're first starting out, when they're wanting to know about it, I think that these are some of the things that they can do. If you ask your angels, okay, so if you really want me to believe that you're there, show me a sign, or do something that's going to let me know that you're there. Because a lot of people, when they're first starting out, need that physical something to prove that it's actually happening. They haven't as yet learned or had enough experience to just trust and believe, which is where we're at. But it takes a while for people to learn to be able to trust and believe. And sometimes just when you're listening to the birds and you just go off into this beautiful meditative state, you're so aware of everything that is around you, and you know that there's more than just this physical world here if you allow yourself just to relax and to ask for help. The important thing, I think, is to ask and to set up a communication with your angels when you're first starting out. And that way it helps you to step into that place.
I know for me, I struggled believing in angels because I hadn't seen signs, as you say. I hadn't seen physical signs. I had only seen other depictions, you know, pictures or angel cards, and I couldn't buy into what they looked like. So I had decided, nope, there's no such thing as angels. And as soon as I said that, I went into meditation and Archangel Michael appeared front and center. And I was quite astounded. But that was 6 years ago. And ever since then, literally every day in those 6 years, I've connected in with Archangel Michael. And the learnings have been astounding. So I second what you're saying. Sometimes it comes in as just even a breeze over your arm or goosebumps or a smell. A smell can be a sign from the angels as well. So I just encourage anybody who is listening to this and doesn't think that they know how to connect with the angels, like you said, just go and be quiet. Open your heart, open your mind, and just be willing to receive. And I think within time, you'll be noticing something. You'll be noticing some messaging going on.
Definitely. And the other thing that we need to be aware of is that their impression of what an angel looks like, because angels aren't necessarily going to be as they're depicted in books and things like that. I know my guardian angel, she dresses in, I don't know if you've ever watched I Dream of Jeannie, which was an American show. Well, she dresses exactly the same as Jeannie dresses, in those little chiffon outfits and whatever. So occasionally, if I say something to her, she'll show me her wings or something, but I usually see her in this little chiffon outfit. So don't, you know, it's important not to have in your mind that the angel is going to be there with huge big wings, etc., because they're not always going to be like that. So, and I think that's another thing to be aware of.
That is a great point. Carol, can you share with us what you are learning currently in your spiritual journey?
Yeah. So what I'm learning currently in my spiritual journey is that I have to surrender and let go of all that I had in mind of what was going to happen in the near future. And this has especially come about since I was asked to be the host on Angel Heart Radio. Because I think for many years that I had just come along, in my terminology, I was just a little bit under the radar. I did my meditations and I ran my workshops and I did my readings and did all those things. But it was like I just wanted to be just sharing with the people who I had the opportunity to share with, but I didn't want to put my head up there. And then Anaya, who has been a friend for a long time, but we'd lost contact, she asked me to join Angel Heart Radio. And it was like almost instantly this whole big world. It was like the shell of the oyster opened up and I popped out, and it was like there's so many things happening, and I just have to let go of what I think is going to happen because of all of that. I'm meeting all of these amazing people, and I know that life is going to, my work and the work of many other people at this time is just going to expand beyond what we ever had any imagination of. And I think, to me, it's a fact of just letting go and letting all of that happen. I can't control it, and I don't want to control it. So it's about allowing it all to happen by letting go. And I know that we're talking about doing great many courses and things like that, and I'm so excited about that because, yeah, I believe now I've popped my head up and I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to do whatever Spirit and the angels want me to do. I'm more than willing to do that. So that's about where I am. I'm really happy and excited about where I am, but I also have to bring in that balance with my human life and my spiritual life as well.
And I personally cannot wait to see what you and Anaya and Angel Heart Radio take on in the future.
Yes, we're looking forward to it all.
Yes. Carol, how can people follow you or find you if they want to learn more about you?
Okay, so I am on Facebook. I haven't got a website at the moment, but I will probably work on doing one. And that was another part of my keeping under the radar. So I'm on Facebook as Carol Ann Cross, Ann with an E. And I have several email accounts, but the one that's probably best is Carol's Angel Wings, all one word, at gmail.com.
Great. Carol, I cannot thank you enough for being here, being vulnerable and open, and touching hearts today. Thank you so much. And thank you, Danielle, for joining us. It was beautiful having you with us, and Divine Mother as well. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
And thank you, Ruth, for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's just wonderful. Thank you.